Chapter 5 Medical Studies at University of Santo Tomas. This report is about Jose Rizal, a very important person in Filipino history. We'll talk about his life and the things he did that made a big difference. From when he was young to the things he wrote, Rizal had a big impact on the Philippines. This report will show how his ideas and actions still matter today. Let's move on to the next slide. Mother's opposition to higher education. After Rizal graduated with the highest honors from Ateneo, Rizal had to go to the University of Santo Tomas for higher studies. The Bachelor of Arts course during Spanish times was equivalent only to the high school and junior college courses today. Both Don Francisco and Pasiano wanted Jose to pursue higher learning in the university, but Doña Teodora, his mother, who knew what happened to Gomburza, vigorously opposed the idea and told her husband, "Don't send him to Manila again. He knows enough. If he gets to know more, the Spaniards will cut off his head." Don Francisco kept quiet and told Pasiano to accompany his younger brother to Manila despite their mother's tears. In 1877 to 1878, Rizal studied cosmology, mathematics, and history of philosophy in his first year term. Well, in 1877 to 1879, Rizal took medical course upon the advice of Ateneo's rector to study medicine. His reason is to be able to cure his mother's growing blindness. This is when Rizal enters the university. In April 1877, Rizal, who was then nearly 16 years old, matriculated in the University of Santo Tomas, taking the course of Philosophy and Letters. He enrolled in this course for two reasons. His father liked it, and he was still uncertain to as what career to pursue. He has written the Father Pablo Ramon, rector of the Ateneo, who had been good to him during his student days in that college, asking for advice on the choice of a career. But the Father Rector was then in Mindanao, so that he was unable to advise Rizal. Consequently, during his first year term, 1877 to 1878, in the University of Santo Tomas, Rizal studied cosmology, metaphysics, theodicy, and history of philosophy. It was during the following term that Rizal, having received the Ateneo's rector's advice to study medicine, took up the medical course, enrolling simultaneously in the preparatory medical course, the regular first-year medical course. Another reason why he chose medical for a career was to be able to cure his mother's growing blindness. This is what I read a while ago. Finishes surveying course Ateneo in 1878. During his first year school term in the University of Santo Tomas, Rizal also studied in the Ateneo. He took the vocational course leading to the title of Perito Agrimensor, or the expert surveyor. In those days, it should be remembered, the colleges for boys in Manila offered vocational courses in agriculture, commerce, mechanics, and surveying. Rizal, as usual, excelled in all subjects in the surveying course in the Ateneo, obtaining gold medals in agriculture and topography. At the age of 17, he passed the final examination in the surveying course, but he could not be granted the title as surveyor because he was below age. The title was issued to him on November 25, 1881. Although Rizal was then a Tumantian, he frequently visited the Ateneo. It was due not only to his surveying course, but words may appear. But as with Segunda, he stopped short of proposing marriage to Orang. Rizal also have a extracurricular activities with the President Academy of Spanish Literature, Secretary Academy of Natural Sciences, Secretary and Maria Congregation. In this page, we will talk about the romances with other girls. Mauni katong mga love life na ni Dr. Jose Rizal. First is Leonor Oram Valenzuela, a medical student from Calamba, Laguna, a charming daughter of Capitan Juan and Capitana Sanday Valenzuela. A tall girl with a regal bearing, Rizal sent Leonor a love note written in invisible ink. This ink consisted of common table salt and water. It left no trace on the paper. Rizal, who knew his chemistry, taught Orang, pet name of Leonor Valenzuela, the secret of reading any note in the invisible ink by heating it over a candle or lamp so that the words may appear. But as with Segunda, he stopped short of proposing marriage to Orang. Rizal's next romance was with another Leonor Rivera, his cousin from Camiling, a student of La Cordillera College where Rizal's sister, Soledad, was then studying. Frail, pretty girl, and tender as a budding flower with kindly, wistful eyes. Leonor was also born in Camiling, Tarlac on April 11, 1867. They became engaged. In her letters to Rizal, Leonor signed her name as Times in order to camouflage their intimate relationship from their parents and friends. Victim of Spanish officers brutally. When Rizal was a freshman medical student at University of Santo Tomas, he experienced his first taste of Spanish brutally. One dark night in Calamba, during the summer vacation in 1878, he was walking in the street. He dimly perceived the figure of a man while passing him. Not knowing the person due to darkness, he did not salute nor say a courteous good evening. The vague figure turned out to be a lieutenant of the Guardia Civil. With a snarl, he turned upon Rizal, whips out his sword, and brutally slashed the latter on the back. The wound was not serious, but it was painful. When Rizal reported the incident to General Primo de Rivera, the Spanish Governor General of the Philippines at that time, but nothing came out of his complaint because he was an Indio and the abusive lieutenant was a Spaniard. Later, in a letter to Blumentritt dated March 21, 1887, he related, I went to the Captain General, but I could not obtain justice. My wound lasted 2 weeks. Next is to the Filipino youth in 1879. In the year 1879, the Liceo Artístico Literano, or the Artistic Literary Lyceum of Manila, a society of literal men and artists, held a literary contest. It offered a prize for the best poem by a native or a mestizo. Rizal, who was then 18 years old, submitted his poem entitled A la Juventud Filipina, or to the Filipino youth. The board of judges, composed of Spaniards, was impressed by Rizal's poem and gave it the first prize, which consisted of a silver pen, feather-shaped and decorated with a gold ribbon. Young Rizal was happy to win the poetry contest. He was sincerely congratulated by the Jesuits, especially his former professor at the Ateneo, and by his friends and relatives. The prize-winning poem, A la Juventud Filipina to the Filipino youth, is an inspiring poem of flawless form. Reasons why Rizal's poem was a classic in Philippine literature. It was the first great poem in Spanish written by a Filipino whose merit was recognized by Spanish literary authorities. Second, it expressed for the first time the nationalistic concept that the Filipino were the fair hope of the fatherland. Next is the Council of the Gods in 1880. The following year, 1880, the Artistic Literary Lyceum opened another literary contest to commemorate the fourth centennial of the death of Cervantes, Spain's glorified man of letters and famous author of Don Quixote. This time, the contest was open to both Filipinos and Spaniard. Many writers participated in the contest: priests, newspapermen, scholars, and professors. Rizal, inspired by his pathetical triumph the previous year, entered the literary juice, submitting an alleg- allegorical drama entitled El Consejo de los Dioses, or the Council of the Gods. The judges of the contest were all Spaniards. After a long and critical appraisal of the entries, they awarded the first prize to Rizal's work because of its literary superiority over others. The Spanish community in Manila, spearheaded by the Spanish press, howled in great indignation against the decision because the winning author was an Indio. Despite all objections, the prize was awarded to Rizal, a gold ring on which was engraved the bust of Cervantes, a Spanish writer. One 19-year-old Philip won the second prize. For the first time in history, an Indio, a 19-year-old Filipino medical student at that excelled in a national literary contest, defeating several Spanish writers of his time in Manila. Rizal was particularly happy for he proved the fallacy of the alleged Spanish superiority over the Filipinos and revealed that the Filipino could hold his own in fair competition against all races. In the winning allegory of Rizal was a literary masterpiece based on the Greek classic. In writing it, Rizal, although a student of the University of Santo Tomas, was aided by the kind of Father Rector of the Ateneo in securing the needed of reference materials. The allegory established a parallel among Homer, Virgil, and Cervantes. Here's also the unhappy days at the university, the unhappy days of Rizal. Rizal, Ateneo's boy wonder, found the atmosphere at the University of Tomas suffocating to his sensitive spirit. He was unhappy at this Dominican institution of higher learning because, first, the Dominican professors were hostile to him. Second, the Filipino students were racially discriminated against by Spaniards. And third, the method of instruction was absolutely unrepressive. In his novel El Filibusterismo, he described how the Filipino students were humiliated and insulted by their Dominican professors and how backward the method of instruction was, especially in the teaching of the natural sciences. He related in chapter 13, the class in physics, that his science subject was taught without laboratory experiments. The microscope and other laboratory apparatuses were kept inside the showcases to be seen by visitors, but the students could not even touch them. Because of the unfriendly attitude of his professors, Rizal, the most brilliant graduate of Ateneo, failed to win high scholastic honors. Although his grades in the first year of the philosophy course were all excellent, they were not impressive in the 4 years of his medical course. His scholastic records in the universities of Santo Tomas were all excellent, almost excellent, good, and some of them good, and some of there are fair also. This is where he decided to study abroad. After finishing the fourth year of his medical course, Rizal decided to study in Spain. He could no longer endure the rampant bigotry, discrimination, and hostility in the University of Santo Tomas. His older brother readily approved his going to Spain, and so did his two sisters, Saturnina and Lucia, Uncle Antonio Rivera, the Valenzuela family, and some friends. For the first time, Rizal did not seek his parents' permission and blessings to go abroad, because he knew that they, especially his mother, would disapprove it. He did not bring his beloved Leonor into his confidence either. He had enough common sense to know that Leonor, being a woman, young and romantic at that, could not keep a secret. Thus, Rizal's parents, Leonor, and the Spanish authorities knew nothing of his decision to go abroad in order to finish his medical studies in Spain, where the professors were more liberal than those of the University of Santo Tomas.